Try to make another cheese, this time mozzarella, and I have never made it before, so if I can do it, that will prove anybody can, I guess. I'm following the instructions that came with a kit from the New England cheese making company. I bought this silly thermometer from them that wants to fall over all the time. I'm not quite sure what to do about that. Anyway, their kit recommends using a gallon of milk, and since it's American, they're talking an American gallon of milk. Let's take that over there. I'm going to use 4 liters, which is slightly more than a gallon, so I hope that doesn't have an adverse effect on the whole thing. The first thing you do, all these ingredients, by the way, as I say, came with the kit, and the kit contains enough of the ingredients to make 30 batches of mozzarella, so it's sort of worth its value, I guess. This is a cup of just regular tap water here, but it stipulates to use non-chlorinated water, so if you're in a city or somewhere that has chlorinated water, you should probably buy some bought spring water or whatever to do your cheese making with, I guess, but mine is well water. And this cup of water has 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid mixed in. You add that to the milk, and that was only 2 liters of the milk. Another 2 liters here. Turn the heat on yet. As soon as I get this milk in there, turn the heat on and heat it up to 90 degrees. That's going to take a few minutes, I'm sure. Right now it's at milk's been sitting out for a while at room temperature, so it's only about 60 degrees. So. Anyway, I will continue stirring until I reach 90 degrees, and then we'll come back to the next phase. Well, it didn't take very long, and now the temperature is up to 90 degrees. And the next thing that you do is add 1/4 of a tablet of rennet, because they've provided rennet in tablet form, mixed with 1/4 cup of dechlorinated or well water here. And it said that if you were using liquid rennet, it would be 1/4 teaspoon of liquid rennet. Surprised it doesn't say on the packaging if this powdered rennet, if that's animal rennet or vegetable rennet. I'm not that strict a vegetarian, it wouldn't bother me either way, I guess, but just the citric acid has caused a bit of coagulation, if you can see there. Add the rennet. And mix it up and down for 30 seconds or so. Just to make sure that it's thoroughly mixed in. And now it just gets covered and sits for 5 minutes. It has sat for 5 minutes. And now you check to see what you think of the curd that's developed, I guess. You can let it set a little longer if you don't think it's set enough. To me it seems pretty firm. Why I would say that when I haven't done anything like this in years, I don't know. But anyway, what you do at this point is with a knife that will go the entire depth of the pot. I no longer have a curd cutting knife. I don't know what happened to it. I had one years ago. That you cut in 1/2 inch slices, approximately 1/2 inch. And it certainly set the curd up rapidly. Hope this isn't too boring. What I'm going to do here is a checkerboard. I'm going to go across the other direction doing the same thing. Then after you have done that, it has to be cut underneath. And hopefully I'll be able to show you how that's done. Wouldn't guarantee it. Some of my cubes, I think, are a bit bigger than others. Okay, now there are two ways of doing that. You can take the cheese ladle and just go down through it, going backwards and forwards, slowly down a ½ inch at a time or so, or you can attempt what I'm going to do here, making cuts across every ½ inch and going all the way back to the back of the pot. Here's hoping I haven't left too many huge ones in there. Maybe I would have been better off if I had done it with the ladle. I don't know. Time will tell. The next thing to do is to turn the heat back on and continue gently stirring until get it up to 105 degrees, I believe. I'll double check on that, but I think it's 105 degrees. Yes. Just gently stirring until you reaches 105. Which may take a bit. It's 92 or 3 there now. So I won't make you watch that part. I'll bring you back when we've reached 105 degrees, hopefully. Now it has reached 105 degrees, and now you stir for 5 minutes, just slow stirring. Seems to be massing up, which is what I guess is what it's supposed to do. It's sort of coming together. And I'll bring you back after I've been stirring for 5 minutes here. I'm still stirring, and I have close to 3 minutes longer to stir here, but a couple of things that I got thinking about that I've meant to say and haven't been saying. All these temperatures are in Fahrenheit, and what I'm using is 2% milk, if you didn't get a chance to read that on the carton, but this will work with whole milk or skim milk or 1% or whatever it is that you want to use. I chose to go with 2%. It continually says in all of these instructions to make sure you're not buying UHT milk. It's milk that's been treated UHT, ultra high temperature. Don't even see it on the shelves around here anymore, but they mention it in the in the instructions continually. Evidently, if you want to try to buy organic milk to use, a lot of that is UHT. It's pasteurized, but it's UHT because it is more expensive and it has to have a longer shelf life because it would sit on the shelf and spoil otherwise. And UHT milk doesn't even require refrigeration, actually. Years and years and years ago I used to see it in stores, but I haven't seen it in stores here anywhere in the last number of years anyway. Well, the next part of the process is to get rid of, it says, what they're calling the floating whey, which is mostly this whey that's on top of the curd, but I also have floating curd, so I'm going to put it through a proper piece of cheesecloth. This came with it. I didn't cut it. It's like 4 layers thick there, which is not necessary, but it's a yard square of butter muslin, a really good cheesecloth, and I didn't want to cut it into smaller pieces. Thought I might need it, a larger piece at some point. And butter muslin can be washed and dried and reused many times. It's a good quality product. The next part of this is done in the microwave, and after I get this into a bowl, I'll show you that. The instructions say to get rid of as much whey as possible without pressing on the cheese curd very much. So I will do that. Okay. Now that goes in a microwave, in a microwavable bowl, which this very old Pyrex bowl is, and is microwaved for 1 minute. Come back in a minute. Okay, that has been in the microwave for a minute, and now you drain off. These are a new pair of gloves, never been used. But this stuff is hot. So you need something on your hands, I guess. At this point it's optional, but you can add a teaspoon of salt. So that's what I'm going to do. And the salt that I'm using came with it. They're calling it cheese salt. It seems to be a very fine grained salt. I'm not quite sure what they mean by cheese salt. Now this just gets folded over on itself 2 or 3 times. It's hot, but not all that hot. Make sure I'm doing things right. I'll get the instructions right here. Okay, fold it over for a few times on itself to knead the cheese in, and get rid of the whey that's here. Get it worked out of it. And now it gets microwaved for 30 seconds. Come back in 30 seconds. And that's at the end of another 30 seconds. You drain off the whey once again. And now I have to take its temperature, I guess, to determine if it's hot enough. Should be 135 degrees. And again, as I'm saying, all of these things are in Fahrenheit. And that is stopping. Still moving, I guess, barely, but it's around 120. Like I said, if it wasn't hot enough, another 30 seconds in the microwave. I wonder how they knew that, but another 30 seconds was just enough. It is now at 135 degrees, and now you work and play with your hot cheese, pulling it like taffy and whatever, and it says the longer you work with it, the firmer the cheese will be. So, it should be smooth and elastic when you finish. And actually, it's starting to look like mozzarella, isn't it? That's fascinating. pull it like toffee, it said. Okay. It is very elastic. I can feel plenty of heat through these gloves. I wouldn't want to be trying to do this with my bare hands anyway. You need a tougher constitution than I've got if you're going to do it with your bare hands. It's very interesting stuff. Yeah, you just form it into whatever shape you want to form it into, I guess is the idea. Once you think you've got it into a solid enough consistency, the next phase is cooling it. Quite sure. Kind of don't want something formed that's going to fall apart later on, but anyway, first effort I guess doesn't have to be perfect. The cooling process, the first 5 minutes it says put it in cold water at 50 degrees. Well, I'm not certain exactly what my tap water is, but I'll put it in tap water for 5 minutes. And then I'll bring you back. It has been in 50-degree water for 5 minutes, and it was almost floating there at one point. Air enough inside of it, or what that means. But now it goes in ice water for 15 minutes. Ice water for 15 minutes. 15 minutes in the ice water bath, and it says at this point you can taste it. I'm going to taste it, but I want to weigh it first to see what. Just drying it off with a bit of kitchen towel, paper towel. I'll take it over to the scales and see what it weighs. And that is in kilograms. 547 grams, 0.547 of a kilo, which is 1 pound, 3.3 ounces. So now we'll just have to taste this stuff, I guess. I was surprised how easy it was to make, actually. Fun. Slices quite nicely, like mozzarella would be, soft and rubbery. I never find that mozzarella has a great deal of flavor anyway, but it does have a pleasing taste anyway. Well, I had to see if it would melt like mozzarella melts, and if it would brown. I just put these under the broiler, so that's a little browner than it should be, actually starting to burn there. But I took some slices of the mozzarella, sort of cut it into strips, and this is sort of a cheater pizza. It's on what we here in North America call an English muffin. If you're from England and looking at this, you're scratching your head and saying, what on earth is that? Believe me, nothing like this was ever seen in England. It's not a crumpet, it's not a tea bun, I don't know what you want to call it. It's a different kind of bread anyway, and it's toasted like this, and it's very good. If you watched one of my last videos here where I was working with the Piemontese Spalette and I made piperade, this is some of that same batch of leftover piperade. I just put it on top of a English muffin and put some of the new mozzarella on to give it a try and see what I think of it here. And actually that makes quite a good pizza. Cheater pizza anyway. The cheese melted and it's nice and stretchy like mozzarella is supposed to be, so I'm quite pleased with that. And I hope you'll give it a try. The supplies that I'm using came from New England Cheesemaking, and their website is cheesemaking.com. I'm sure you can find others. I know there's a couple of suppliers in Canada, but this is the one that I decided to go with. And mozzarella is definitely an easy cheese to make. Well, thank you very much for watching.